I should make no more than 5 or 6 errors this morning.
Oh, well, I can't count.
Is that loud enough?
Yeah, yeah.
Ashamed of playing the lead to another. It doesn't take any sacrifice. Oh, father and mother and sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. What I've got to say to you is just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. You can run, but you cannot hide. This is widely known. And tell me what you plan to do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone. Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to ease. I think it's true what they say about the squeaky wheel always getting the grease. Better to shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. What I've got to say to you is just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. What I've got to say to you is just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will.
This is a new day. It is a day full of sound and light and expectations. This day has been waiting for you. Let's not waste it. Please rise and, in spirit, if not in body, to join in our first hymn today, which is hymn number 336.
Got the words?
Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Youngstown, Ohio. Whether you are within our four walls or coming to us from stream by Zoom or even watching later on YouTube. Our Unitarian Universalist faith is a living, evolving tradition which draws inspiration from many sources, from Buddhism and early Christianity through the sayings and writings of our contemporaries. Ours is also a shared ministry in which our settled minister, Reverend Joseph Boyd, invites multiple perspectives of members and worship associates. I am Alyssa Smith, one of two commissioned lay ministers in our church. I am a retired professor from the Department of Foreign Languages at Youngstown State University, which department is no longer, and I welcome this opportunity to reflect on the many bends of the moral arc of the universe that have brought us, me and you, to this time and place. I especially welcome Kate Ross, our worship associate today, to read the announcements and give a loud lighting of the chalice.
First, the announcements. The UUYO book group is reading Haruki Murakami, Underground, the Tokyo Gas Attack and the Japanese Psyche. And that's meeting Wednesday, September 17th at 7 p.m., and it is only on Zoom. Murakami is a very well-known and well-regarded writer of novels. This nonfiction work is a series of interviews of people whose lives were impacted by the 1995 sarin gas attack in a Tokyo subway by the religious cult AUM. On Saturday, September 20th at 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Youngstown Zen Center presents the Gate Meditation Retreat. Location is both here and Zoom. Join Roshi Dakin Nelson, a Zen teacher from New York City, and Reverend Joseph Boyd from the UU Church of Youngstown for a day-long meditation retreat and a conversation afterwards on the Gateless Gate. Please RSVP if you plan to attend for any length of time by emailing jboyd@uuyo.org. There is no set fee, and all programming and travel expenses for Rashi Dakin are supported by your donations. We are hosting a fall equinox celebration on Monday, September 22nd at 6:30 p.m. right here in Channing Hall. Join friends to celebrate the end of summer and the beginning of fall and the importance of love and resilience in the chilling season. Bring food or drink for yourself or to share. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. There will be a brief ceremony at 7, and food and fellowship thereafter. Also, save the date. Our building turns 100 years old this year, and on Saturday, October 18th, we are commemorating this significant milestone. We will host events on October 18th that reflect on the church's past 100 years. Further information will be provided soon. And worship services resume upstairs September 7th, following a thorough cleaning of recent weeks. So after the service today, if you're willing or able, please haul hymnal books upstairs. Thank you. I thought I was doing the chalice lighting last week. So I sat down Sunday morning to work on my chalice lighting. When I tried to put my bag there was already a bag there. So I moved that interloper. Turned out it was Brandy's bag. We exchanged words. They were kind words because Brandy is a genuinely kind person. And I like people to think I'm a kind person. So that procrastination last week was actually accidental precrastination. Moral fortitude is the strength of character to do the right thing, even if, especially if, it is hard. Fortitude is strength of character. It's moral courage. Turns out moral fortitude is a redundancy. It's the same thing. It's facing adversity with courage and perseverance. It isn't always a kind thing. In fact, sometimes doing the right thing makes you a real bitch. Calling out the bully, ending the bully's fun, air quotes. Going against the crowd when the crowd is doing the wrong thing. It's tough, it's frightening, it is often necessary. As we light this chalice, may each breath remind us of the sacred rhythm of life, the pulse of creation, and the power we hold to shape the world around us. The meditation.
Yeah. No, we got to do the
Offering.
yeah. Yeah.
I warned her I'd mess up at least 5 times. That's one. Let's see. It is not written down.
In fairness, worship associates don't usually have to do multiple roles.
She said, in fairness, worship associates don't usually need to do multiple roles, but usually the offering goes to the worship assistant. We take up a gathering of a collection of monies in the memory of the fact that we are a community. If you are a guest here, please know that your presence is gift enough. Any undesignated funds this month, the Share the Plate, is going to our church's celebration, the centennial celebration.
Oh, whoops! I skipped. That was my first screw up.
Thank you for.
I'll announce the.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
So it's now the time in the service where we all stand and greet our neighbors if we're willing and able. So please do that. Just chat among yourselves for a couple of minutes while we regroup.
I'm sorry.
I set her up. I told her I would mess up, but she.
It would have been a real short service, right? And then I'll ring the bell to stop it. Okay, I can see that. Yeah. And I bring you the message for all ages. As usual, the story is written by me. It is called Faith and the Story of Noah, and you should be seeing pictures right there on the screen. In the Bible, we learn about a man named Noah. One day, God became tired of all the evil in the world and decided to destroy his creation with the flood. But Noah was a kind and loving man, and he had faith in his God. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Faith is described as the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. The Bible says, by faith Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. Now, the Bible does not tell us what anyone was thinking during this time or how they were feeling, but we can imagine what we would be thinking and feeling if this happened to us. Now, the Bible does not tell us either. Maybe all of the people who lived near Noah thought he was crazy for building a giant boat in the middle of dry land. Maybe all of the people who lived near Noah thought he was crazy, and just to prove how crazy he must be, Noah started bringing every kind of animal, even wild animals like tigers and bears, onto the boat. And then Noah and his family entered the ark along with a bunch of food and closed the door. Soon the rain came, and it kept raining for many, many days. Noah and his family were probably all scared and wondered if they were going to die. It must have been hard not to lose faith in God. The Bible tells us that the rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and the waters rose so high they covered the mountains. All life was gone, except for everyone on the ark, and the water covered the whole earth for 150 days. Imagine how it felt to be tossing around with all those wild animals in the dark, and how it must have smelled. And imagine the sounds. Do you think Noah was pretty scared by now? I know I would be. Noah's faith in God may have wavered, but it was not completely lost. And God did not forget his promise to Noah. Finally, the water started to abate, and the ark came to rest on a mountaintop. Noah opened a window and sent out a dove to see if the water was all dried up on earth. But she came back because the ground was still flooded. 7 days later, he sent her out again, and she came back with an olive leaf. When he sent her out a third time, she did not return. Then Noah knew it was time to leave the ark. So Noah went out with all of the animals and all of his family. Then Noah built an altar to God. And God made another promise to Noah. I will never again curse the ground or strike down every living creature as I have done, while the earth remains, seedtime and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. The Bible says, then God put the rainbow in the sky as a sign of his promise that he would never again destroy the earth with flood. Now, why did God do this terrible thing in the first place? Perhaps the people of the earth had lost their faith in God. Or maybe God lost faith in the good of humanity. But the story can teach us that even when all hope and faith seem lost, it can be renewed again. The end. A Bible story at a Unitarian church. Have to think about that the rest of the day, I'm sure. So now it's time for our covenant, and I'd like to invite all the children up to the front. We're going to read our covenant together. Our covenant is located in the order of service. You all know it. What? Not yet. That's later. Here? Come on up here. Okay. Okay, here we go. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now we sing our kids out, also in the order of service.
Go now in peace.
Go now in peace.
May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Melissa tells me that now is the time for our offering. I'm not going to struggle through that whole thing again, so thank you.
Our church does not have money lenders, only money takers.
Melissa said our church does not have money lenders, we only money.
Just a heads up, next week we will be moving back upstairs to the sanctuary. It's September, yeah, and it's Water Communion Sunday. So if any of you have any little glasses of water from someplace that's special to you or your heart or it means something to you, bring that along, and you're going to have an opportunity to put it up amongst all the other waters that everybody brings along next Sunday. And I will be with you again next Sunday, so we'll look forward to that. For offertory this morning, this is a song written by Billy Joel. And Billy talked about this song as talking about people, like sometimes life is manic depressive. It's either sadness or euphoria. And this is called Summer Highland Falls. They say that these are not the best of times, but they're the only times I've ever known. And I believe there is a time for meditation in cathedrals of our own. Now I have seen that sad surrender in my lover's eyes, and I can only stand apart and sympathize. For we are always what our situations hand us. It's either sadness or euphoria. Sadness or euphoria. And so we'll argue and we'll compromise and we'll realize that nothing's really changed. For all our mutual experience, our separate conclusions are the same. Now we are forced to recognize our inhumanities. Our reason coexists with our insanity. And so we choose between reality and madness. It's either sadness or euphoria. Sadness or euphoria. How thoughtlessly we dissipate our energies. Perhaps we don't fulfill each other's fantasies, and so we stand upon the ledges of our lives with our respective similarities. It's either sadness or euphoria.
now is the time of our meditation. People who meditate regularly know its purpose is an integration of spirit and body. This is a time to settle one's body in time and space, to separate oneself from the myriad distractions of daily living, and as possible, to allow us to be fully present to each other.
Epigraph to the success of our hopeless cause. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas at the same time and still retain the ability to function. One should, for example, be able to see the things that are hopeless and yet be determined to make them otherwise. F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Crack-Up. My intention was not to deal with the problem of truth, but with the problem of the truth teller, or of truth-telling as an activity. Who is able to tell the truth about what, with what consequences, and with what relation to power? Michael Foucault, Fearless Speech. What's the matter, you disingenuous rogues, that, rubbing the poor itch of your opinion, make yours, yourself, scabs? Shakespeare, Coriolanus.
We hadn't quite worked out the choreography.
No, you need you a little closer.
It don't have a job. It don't pay your bills. Won't buy you a home in Beverly Hills. Won't fix your life in 5 easy steps. Ain't the law, the land, or the government, but it's all you need, and love will hold us together, make us a shelter to weather the storm, and I'll be my brother's keeper, so the whole world will know that we're not alone. It's waiting for you, knocking at your door. In the middle of the night when your heart hits the floor, and it's all you need, and love will us together, make us a shelter to weather the storm, and I'll be my brother's keeper, so the whole world will know that we're not alone. This is the first day of the rest of your life. This is the first day of the rest of your life, and love will hold us together, make us a shelter to weather the storm, and I'll be my brother's keeper, so the whole world will know that we're not alone.
Meeting the Moment was the title the UUYO, Unitarian Universalist Association, chose for its General Assembly this past June, at which I was the official delegate from UUYO. And what a moment this is. I have felt, as have many, while it is important both to remember and honor the past, to recognize the challenges of the present and future require new approaches. As a virtual tsunami of waves are upon us, we need to learn a new way to surf. We are, as a denomination, called to account to live our values. But how? Last week's service and this are thematically linked by quoting Dr. Martin Luther King. You may have noticed that the title of my service truncates the famous saying, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." And it's been pointing out to me that my title, "The Arc of the Moral Universe Bends," should be a tautology, but not really in the sense that I mean it. I was riffing off a title that a former minister of this church, David Leonard, used when he said, "The good news is the road to hell is paved." This is a reminder that every word of wisdom has its flip side, and the arc of the moral universe is more of a spiral than a straight line. Martin Luther King, has entered the canon of our moral universe. I am a member of an ever-diminishing generation for whom the March on Washington, the Civil Rights Act, and Dr. King's assassination are living memory. Well, I was 12 years old at the time. In this past year, a member of our congregation, who was actually a member of that march, passed away. This was Jim Ray. So I begin by reflecting on the flip side, which for me, over the past 60 years of lived experience, 55 of which included 6 years of study to, travel to, and research in the country behind the Iron Curtain, the evil empire, Eurasia, Putin land, and of course its language, literature, and culture. If you are familiar with the Hegelian triad of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, which Karl Marx allegedly turned on its head when he wrote the Communist Manifesto, I like to think of American liberal religion and Soviet Russian studies as the thesis and antithesis of my own spiritual development, while the synthesis is what I'm working on now. The spark that kindled my message today was a recent account of the dissident movement in the Soviet Union in the 1960s and 70s. Many of the figures in this account were teachers, my teachers, friends of my friends, and sources of intellectual and emotional ties to the Russian language, literature, and culture, which I went on to be a graduate student on. And the title of this work that Kate just wrote, To the Success of Our Hopeless Cause, is actually a Russian toast that you can imagine what they were drinking, but that's what kept the dissident movement together. This toast points to a persistence in the face of ambiguity, even the certainty of failure. I found, when I read this book, that the first sentence in chapter 1 quotes a dissident, Boris Shradkin, when he was a student at Moscow State University. And the same Boris Shradkin is a professor from whom I took a course in the summer of 1975 at Millbury's College Russian Summer School on the dissident movement, of which he had been a member before emigrating to the U.S. with his wife, Natalia Sadomskaya, an anthropologist and thus a student of everything human. A curious, silent visitor, he was silent at the time, to the summer school that year was Alexei Yesenin Volpin, son of the poet Sergei Yesenin, whom I later learned was the architect of a slogan, "Respect the Soviet Constitution." This was unfurled as a banner some 10 years earlier by a small group of protesters on Red Square. Their protest didn't last long, but it has reverberated. Among them was the nuclear physicist Andrei Sakharov, and also a woman who was later to become a close friend of mine, Lydia Finkelstein. I say her name because she did not make it into this study by virtue of the fact that her life was cut short in 1980 by the uterine cancer that was, ironically, the very thing that caused the Soviet authorities to allow her to emigrate to the United States in the first place. Actually, it was just, as most Russian emigres at the time, they were allowed to emigrate to their historical homeland, Israel, but Israel didn't have diplomatic relations, so they ended up in Vienna or Rome, and then chose the direction that they would head after that. But the reason for Lydia's immigration was so that for the Soviet authorities to not have to have her death as a pretext for Western Sovietologists to add as a piece of propaganda, this dissident who they allowed to die. It's different nowadays. They allow them to die in place. The slogan, "Respect the Soviet Constitution," and this event was as a twist on the principles first introduced by the 19th century American transcendentalist and Unitarian Henry David Thoreau in Civil Disobedience. The Soviet Constitution of 1936, the so-called Stalin Constitution, the text of which exceeds the American Constitution in its expression of civil liberties, being the Constitution in mind. Yesenin Volpin's strategy was to bring the conflict between the promise of Soviet ideology and its lived reality. Culturally speaking, Russian culture of this period thrived through the population's highly developed capacity to read between the lines, to find the ironies of their existence, and speak and act in ways that eventually brought down the political regime. We shall not inquire into the further bend in the post-Soviet reality, except to say we hope it is not going to become ours. In today's America, we are thus caught in something of a trap between civil obedience and civil disobedience. Both paths remain open to us, but can we not find a third way? The saying, the arc of the moral universe is long, but bends towards justice, that is commonly attributed to Martin Luther King, was actually first pronounced over 100 years earlier by a Unitarian minister and abolitionist, Theodore Parker. So, the arc of the moral universe is longer than we imagine, but we can look to our religious ancestors for reinforcing the fact that we are on the right track. I spoke of Martin Luther King as having been a canonical figure in the development of Unitarian Universalism, and as I understand, Martin Luther King was actually very much in sympathy with Unitarian Universalist principles, but he said it wouldn't float in the African American community that he came from. But I misspoke calling King a canonical figure for us. In moving, as we have in this past year, from a list of principles that guide us to shared values of interdependence, justice, pluralism, generosity, equity, transformation, with love at its center, the Unitarian Universalist Association has essentially moved beyond established canon of figures to a framework that holds us accountable in new ways, collectively and individually. And what are we doing now? We're gathered in worship. And what is worship? As the UUYO on its website proclaims, worship is our shared Unitarian Universalist practice of exploring, connecting to, and creating the ways that our individual lives fit into a larger whole. We gather and worship to define meaning and live more deeply. Worship creates connections within, among, and beyond us, calling us to ourselves. The part of worship that I want to turn to today is singing hymns, and the new hymns that are being written to signal a new era. Most of the time when we sing, we say gray hymnal or teal hymnal. Jeff Krause and Tim Reardon are the voices and occasionally the authors of new material we have access to. Over the next few months, we will be reviewing the newest iteration of hymnals, which, in keeping with 21st century practice, is not being produced in book form, but streaming by congregational subscription. I imagine that at our annual meeting in January, we will be voting on whether to adopt the subscription at the rate of $25 a month. Some 35 to 40 years ago, because I have been around that long, we adopted the gray hymnal, and I recall making a donation of $25 to purchase one of the volumes that exists here. And I don't know how it happened, but the particular volume that I keep at home when deciding what hymn to sing bears the signature of the poet Marge Piercy. So poets and writers of many bent are members or in sympathy with us. Our gray hymnal, Singing the Living Traditional, contains the same melody for different lyrics in several cases. There's an old joke that my father, who is a singer and soloist at the Wayland Mass church we belonged to, was fond of repeating. The question is asked, why are UUs so bad at singing hymns? The answer, because they are trying to read ahead to see if they agree with the words. Last year, Unitarian Universalists managed to agree on seven words, with love at the center. This sounds a bit like the legacy of Martin Luther King, doesn't it? So I thought I would take a bit of time to review where we've come from, musically speaking, beginning with one in the gray hymnal that Jeff Krause said is his favorite in English transliteration. It happens in English translation. It happens to be number 200 in your hymnal, and the author of this is not Martin Luther King, but the Reformed 16th century author of the Protestant Reformation, Martin Luther. Take it away, Jeff.
So I will sing the first verse of this. Yes. It's 303 is what you're going to sing. Yeah, I'm going to sing the first verse of the way the song was originally written by Martin Luther. And then we will jump in, and you can stay seated for this, and then we'll jump in with the two verses of hymn number 303, We Are the Earth, Upright and Proud. But it's going to be the same melody as what you hear me doing, and if you know A Mighty Fortress Is Our God, you'll know that melody probably by heart. But I remember hearing this song in church from the time I was old enough to hear music, and there was just something about it that always stirred me. The old story was that Martin Luther actually had been passing by a couple pubs in Germany and heard this song coming out of a pub as a drinking song that the German guys were singing on an evening. So I always thought it was very ironic that the church was, this is our anthem. A mighty fortress is our God, a tower of strength ne'er failing. Our helper he amid the flood of mortal ills prevailing. For still our ancient foe doth seek to work us woe. His craft and his powers are great, but armed with cruel hate. On earth is not his equal. And hymn number 303. We are the earth upright and proud. In us the earth is knowing. Its winds are music in our mouths. In us its rivers flowing. The sun is our heart fire, warm with the earth's desire, and with its purpose strong, we sing earth's pilgrim song.
subliminal theme here. When Jeff mentioned about Martin Luther and the pub song is, of course, you're probably familiar with this story, that's where Francis Scott Key got the melody to our national anthem. But also, it links. Yeah, right. Where would we be without it?
Where would we be?
Yeah, right. And Jim Stone the other day said that one of the best times he's had recently in our church was when we were doing the try to be happy hours after the election. While we may not believe anymore in the ancient foe that Luther had in mind when he wrote and spoke of, we still have among us beings whose wrath and power is great and often armed with cruel hate. So we protest as we are able and take a giant leap into the 20th century for our next the hymn that we just sang, hymn number 303, which was written by a 20th century theologian, Patton, whose theological thought developed from an earlier career as a Methodist minister. By the 1960s, he started as a Methodist minister, and he had become a full-blown humanist, which is reflected in the words of this hymn, and a minister of a Universalist church in Boston at the time of the merger between Unitarianism and Universalism. A poet himself, Patton wrote the new lyrics for the hymnal issued to represent the merger, Hymns for the Celebration of Life. This signals concern primarily with life on earth, and I'm not sure whether we totally agree with the words or see them as aspiration, and the aspiration is closing. By the 1960s, in a call for new words to a hymnal, and a Unitarian minister, Mark Billatini, who was studying Russian at the time, composed the words to the first hymn that we sang. And the melody, I gather, is not the easiest to sing, but our new hymnal is being proposed to come out representing these new shared values, and I call on our signer, Karen, yeah, okay, yeah.
So I ran across this great way to learn our shared values. It's something that the UU children across the country are doing. And it helps you to remember, and then if anyone asks you, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? Because it happens, right? People do ask you that. You can put your hand up and show them all these motions, and you'll have fulfilled that question. So join me in this. So we have 6 shared values, right? With love in the center. So 6 and 1 is 7. So we're going to do 7 motions. So the first one is transformation, like a fern unfurling. We believe we can transform ourselves and transform the world. 2 is equity, like an equal sign, not equality, but the fairness of equity. 3 is pluralism. Looks like 3 little people. Imagine 3 smiley faces. We learn from everybody. We do not hold all the truth. We learn from everyone. Pluralism. 4 is justice. We make a fist because we know that we need to work for justice. Sometimes we even need to fight for justice. 5 is generosity. Generosity, which of course is centered in our love. And 6 is love. And so draw a heart in the center of your palm, because love is the center of Unitarian Universalism. And 7 is our respect for the interdependent web of life of which we are a part. Life and each other and the earth. So now you know. Thanks.
And I have yet to learn it. So I wanted to close, though, reverting back to the words of the first hymn, because when I first encountered the words to the hymn number 336, I didn't recognize. I know the poet Akhmatova very well, and it didn't strike me as if this is what she had written. So it turns out that Mark Bellatini, in appropriating Akhmatova's poem as lyrics for a new hymnal by 1984, which is when that hymnal was released, a lot had changed, and including singing the living tradition, part of the living tradition was Russia. And he names two sentiments that I had to retranslate the Akhmatova poem in order to make sense of it. And I asked if we can do our trade here again.
This is Melissa Smith's translation of Anna Akhmatova's poem, also hymn 336. All the souls of loved ones are on the stars above. How good it is there's no one left to lose, and we can cry. The air of Tsar's village was made for songs to be repeated. On river banks, a silver willow tree leans down to touch the bright September waters, risen from the past, so silently. My shadow moves towards me in meeting. So many lyres are hanging on its branches, but there still seems to be a place for mine. And this fine rain that pours through the sunlight is consolation and good news for me.
Now, I want to draw attention to two differences, basically, between Mark Bellatini's translation and mine. And the first is the word love. All My Memories of Love is the title of our hymn. And love here is a noun, a universal sentiment that includes romantic, familial, and broader concepts. Akhmatova's love, on the other hand, is adjectival, part of a prepositional phrase. And I apologize for being a foreign language teacher to whom the grammatic terms are come naturally. But all my memories of love versus all the souls, what she names, most importantly, the souls, and the souls of loved ones. But here, love, the word that she uses for loved ones, is not любовь for those who have said, Я люблю тебя is the first phrase a lot of people learn in Russian. It's a softer, more domesticated variety of love. Speaking of sweet, kind, gentle, concrete beings. And it is most definitely concrete human beings to whom she is referring, who by this time have been slaughtered in great number. The Russian audience would immediately recognize that in 1921, Akhmatova's loved ones are the many who perished in World War I and the victims of the civil war within Russia, which followed the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917. Those familiar with the details of her biography might add the subtext, the knowledge that 1921 was the year in which her estranged at that time husband, an equally prominent poet, Nikolai Gumilyov, was executed as a Japanese spy, which is doubtful, but that was the pretext. One other significant difference in the translation is contained in the last verse, where Billatini's projects a solidarity of hearts upon those high stars. Akhmatova's Russian lyric original speaks of lyres, the universal symbol of poetry, and her final lines reflect her consciousness of her growing role as a writer who to speak truth to her fellow Russians. Unlike many of the prominent writers and intellectuals who emigrated from Russia after the Russian Revolution, after World War II, and voluntary or forced migrants of more recent times, Akhmatova proudly remained and remained in her country, deflecting the slings and arrows of her outrageous fortune. Now, Akhmatova was an accepted voice throughout the Soviet regime, but a poet like Akhmatova would be issued in very small print runs, unlike the Communist Manifesto and a lot of other. So it was hard for Russians of the time to get their hands on. And that was one of the books that I didn't smuggle too much into the Soviet Union because I wanted to be able to cross the border unchallenged. But one of the books that my friend Linia encouraged bringing was Akhmatova's poetry. That had been published in the Soviet Union, but was more available in the United States. So, would you please pray with me? Spirit of love and life, help us find the strength to bend the arc of the moral universe in our own little ways, consistent with our shared values, as we hold love at our center, serving truth and, as we understand it, and helping one another. Our closing hymn is going to be taken from the new hymnal, which is called Sing Out Love. And as I say, it's a virtual hymnal. And so we have it printed up for us.
We'll sing the first and the second verse of this. The verses are on one side, then flip it over. The chorus is on the other side. So let's stay seated for this so that we can, I know it's new to you, it's new to me. So we can stay seated and just concentrate on what we're doing here, all right? This is called Pass on the Light. See one nice spark, still small and bright, the hands cupped around to shield the light, a single flame, throne of desire, faces turned toward that glow. Pass on the light, pass on the light, love
Yeah.
If I might indulge you for just a moment. My name is Diana Mason, and I'm so happy to be here today because a year and a half I moved to Pittsburgh. So I've only been able to join you on Zoom. I joined this church in 1975. So I'm a little bit of an older member, but a very strong member. I'm so happy to be with you today. My family and happy 50 years. Thank you.
You first.
You.
See, those words got exchanged again. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fortitude of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
Yeah, and I get still, before he gets the last word, I get the next to the last. Which is the benediction, to which I wanted to add the words of an anthropologist who's included in our hymnal, Margaret Mead, who wrote, "Never doubt that a strong, committed small group of people can make changes. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has."
And we close with the last verse of the original lyric of A Mighty Fortress. That word above all earthly powers, no thanks to them abideth. The Spirit and the gifts are ours, through God who with us sideth. Let goods or kindred go, this mortal life also, the body they may kill, but God's truth abideth still. That